This tactical diagram shows August 2nd, 216 BCE on a flat plain in southern Italy. We are seeing the systematic destruction of the largest army the Roman Republic had ever assembled. This 80,000-strong Roman force is being surrounded and dismantled by a thinner, curved red crescent, a significantly smaller enemy army. The commander executing this trap was Hannibal Barca. History remembers him as a tactical genius who won every battle he fought in Italy for over a decade. Yet his brilliance on the battlefield would ultimately trigger the complete destruction of his own people. This conflict was the culmination of a generational feud. Decades earlier, in the First Punic War, Hannibal's father, Hamilcar Barca, had fought Rome for control of Sicily. Carthage lost that war, surrendering the island and paying a massive financial indemnity. These terms crippled Carthage's military prestige. Rome had humiliated a wealthy merchant empire, and for the Barca family, the loss of Sicily was a debt that could only be paid in Roman blood. The slaughter at Cannae was the result of this personal vendetta. Years earlier, Hamilcar supposedly brought his 9-year-old son to a temple altar and forced him to swear a blood oath that he would never be a friend to Rome. Hannibal spent the rest of his life fulfilling that vow. Hannibal assumed command of the Carthaginian forces in Spain in 221 BCE. He immediately sought a confrontation by sacking Saguntum, a Roman allied city, effectively forcing Rome into a second war. To reach Italy, Hannibal launched a logistical nightmare. He marched 50,000 infantry, 9,000 cavalry, and a contingent of war elephants directly over the treacherous peaks of the Alps in late autumn. The crossing took 17 days. Hannibal's men faced freezing temperatures and hostile mountain tribes. While he achieved total tactical surprise by appearing in the north, the ice claimed nearly half of his original force. To rebuild his army, Hannibal presented himself to the local tribes as a liberator. By framing his invasion as a campaign to break Rome's grip on the peninsula, he successfully recruited thousands of Celtic and Italian allies to replace the men lost in the mountains. This crossing redefined ancient warfare. Hannibal proved that Rome's natural mountain defenses were meaningless against a commander with the audacity to attempt the impossible. Once in Italy, Hannibal's mastery of the ambush resulted in immediate, devastating victories at the Trebia River and Lake Trasimene, where he repeatedly outthought and slaughtered the Roman legions sent to stop him. By the time the two sides met at Cannae, Rome had assembled its largest army yet. More than 80,000 Roman soldiers marched onto the field, confident that their sheer numbers would crush the smaller Carthaginian force. Hannibal used Roman confidence against them, placing his light infantry in a convex center. As the massive Roman bloc pushed forward, the Carthaginian center yielded and bowed backward. Simultaneously, Hannibal's heavy cavalry swung around the rear, trapping the entire Roman force in a circle. The scale of the loss was staggering. In a single afternoon, tens of thousands of Romans were killed. Most of the Republic's senior military leadership died in the pocket, leaving the city of Rome virtually undefended. Cannae was a masterpiece of annihilation. By every standard of the ancient world, a victory this complete should have resulted in Rome's immediate surrender and the rise of a Carthaginian Mediterranean. In the days following the victory at Cannae, Hannibal chose not to march on the city of Rome. He paused his advance, a decision that would ultimately shift the entire trajectory of the war. His cavalry commander, Hannibal, famously told him, "You know how to win a victory, Hannibal, but you do not know to use one." Hannibal believed they could have been dining in the Roman capital within days. Hannibal's hesitation was driven by a lack of siege equipment. He had no way to break Rome's walls, and the Carthaginian Senate, suspicious of his power and unwilling to spend the money, refused to send him the necessary reinforcements. This delay allowed Rome to recover. They adopted the Fabian strategy, a war of delay where they burned their own crops and refused to meet Hannibal in open battle, slowly starving his army of supplies and momentum. This strategy changed the rules of the war. Hannibal was still invincible on a tactical chessboard, but he was losing a war of logistical attrition that Carthage was never equipped to win. While Hannibal was stalled in Italy, a young Roman named Scipio Africanus realized that the only way to defeat Hannibal was to copy his aggression. Scipio had survived Cannae, and he had been studying the master. Scipio bypassed Hannibal entirely. He conquered the Carthaginian territories in Spain and then launched a naval invasion of North Africa. He was striking at the heart of Carthage's merchant identity, forcing Hannibal to finally abandon Italy to defend his home. In 202 BCE, at the battle in Sama, Scipio used Hannibal's own flanking tactics against him. The Roman army outmaneuvered the Carthaginians, handing Hannibal the only major defeat of his career. It is a tragic irony that the man who finally broke Hannibal was a Roman student who had learned the art of war by suffering through Hannibal's greatest victories. Hannibal spent his final years in exile, serving foreign kings as a mercenary advisor. Around 183 BCE, cornered by Roman agents in Bithynia, he chose to take poison rather than be captured. He was 64 years old. Even with Hannibal dead, the fear he had instilled in the Roman people remained. Decades later, Rome launched the Third Punic War with a single goal: the total destruction of the city of Carthage. When the Roman legions finally breached the walls, they began the systematic leveling of the city. Stone by stone, the wealthiest trading hub in the Mediterranean was dismantled and reduced to a field of dust. The surviving Carthaginians were sold into slavery. The Republic ordered the destruction of their texts and culture, ensuring that the Punic story would only be told through the eyes of its enemies. Hannibal's unmatched brilliance left the Republic with a fear so permanent that it drove them to erase his entire civilization from the face of the earth. In the end, his tactical genius was the very thing that ensured his city would be wiped off the map.